Well, hey everybody, this is Ken Krell. Welcome to today's presentation. You are, as always, in for a treat, but today is even more important because this is not just about fun time. This is about the safety and security of your business. And I got to tell you, this is a training workshop that has been in the making for a long time, and I'm really excited to be able to bring it to you now because, frankly, at the end of the day, this is probably the most important one you're going to hear in your business life. And I don't say that lightly because here's why. You can focus on making money, making money, making money. We'll give you lots and lots of strategies and tactics on building your business and making money. But if you don't handle the legal foundation of your business, you can be out of business no matter how profitable you are. And the more profitable you are, the bigger the pain will be. So I want to make sure that the foundation of your success is on rock solid bedrock, if you will. And the best way to do that is to ensure that all the compliance issues are nailed down tight so that if anyone ever wants to challenge you, you can win and sleep at peace at night knowing that you're covered. We are in a very, very litigious, that's a 25-cent word, by the way, society where I knew you'd like that, Chip. But we're in a very, very challenging society. And I got to tell you, just from my own personal experience, having had the FBI show up at my house about 20 plus years ago to subpoena all of my real estate records when I was a real estate agent because there was so much fraud going on in the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They subpoenaed everyone, and $25,000, literally $25,000 of legal fees later, nothing ever happened. I mean, I was in perfect compliance, thank God. But what if I wasn't? These guys are looking for everything. So you're going to be having the security and the safety of knowing what you need to do and how to protect yourself, and you'll be amazed at how ultimately simple it's going to be when you hear what some of the solutions are. So we're not just going to tell you what the problems are, we're going to also give you a solution so you can just take a deep breath and feel comfortable. Now, the person whose pictures you see on the screen, and some of you with us today, I've already seen Chip and I on video. Chip's partner Alan would normally be introducing Chip. They are a great team that work together. And I'm not sure if Alan, if you're there, that we can actually hear you. Are you?
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, awesome, great, you're there. Terrific.
Yep. I had to dial in. Something happened when you guys switched, or something happened, and it kicked me off audio wise. I couldn't get any audio coming in. But anyway, I dialed in and I'm here.
Awesome. Okay, well then I will introduce you, and then you can introduce Chip, and we'll do this as we had planned it. I can tell you that having spent the past week or so with Alan and Chip, we'd known each other before. We'd seen each other on the Marketers Cruise in years past. We were never able to get our schedules to coordinate, but this is something I've wanted to do for the longest time, and we worked schedules out, and I wanted this done immediately, and here we are. So I will introduce Professor Alan Cutts, who will then present you with my buddy Chip Cooper. So Alan, take it away.
Hey guys, welcome to the webinar. Chip has been a friend of mine for for going on maybe 3, 4, 5 years now. We met at an internet mastermind program where Chip was really talking about compliance and all that kind of stuff. And really back then, 5+ years ago, I didn't think a whole lot about it. And then as time went on, I started listening more to him and started following the law and realized this was something I really needed to get behind. And so Chip and I, over the last couple of years have become partners in FTC Guardian. And Chip is just, the go-to guy when it comes to internet law. I mean, technically, Chip is a well-known and very sought-after internet marketing and SaaS attorney in the online business community. He's really kind of famous for writing and publishing a number of books, specifically on the topic of internet law, with another book coming out. Well, actually, he just finished the one on behavioral advertising, I think just last month, if I remember correctly. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing him. Chip will tell you more about his resume. He's the go-to guy that everybody goes to if they want to know about internet law and how it relates to the Federal Trade Commission. So, Chip, if you want to take it over, and whose screen are we showing right now? Are we still showing your Chip's screen?
This is Chip. Thanks for the kind introduction. We're showing my title screen.
Okay.
A picture of the title, so I can take it away. Thanks, guys, for the very kind introductions. And you see the title right there, Tragic Legal War Stories. We're going to talk about real legal cases that have been brought by the Federal Trade Commission. And listen up. These cases are not brought against the Googles of the world or the Facebooks of the world. They're brought against smaller entrepreneurial internet marketers and internet businesses, probably a lot like yours. And I'll explain why in just a few minutes, why the FTC is going after the smaller businesses now. But as you see in the title, we're going to explain this in terms of these war stories that'll show you how the FTC could actually freeze your bank accounts, which is sort of scary, and what you can do to avoid this happening to you. So that's the title. But before we get into the presentation, just stop for a minute and think about these people. They're real people involved in these lawsuits by the Federal Trade Commission, a lot like you, again, not the Googles or the Facebooks of the world. So I don't know any of them. None of them are my clients, but I've thought about them, and I've read these cases carefully several times each, and I think about them, and I wonder why they got into trouble, because in reading the cases, I don't think they intended to violate the law or to be out of compliance. I don't think that they were even reckless, in the sense that they just didn't care about being in compliance. And I think it's really a question of the cliche, they just didn't know what they didn't know. And again, that's a cliche, but there's an element of truth to it. And we're going to talk about that throughout this presentation. And of course, ignorance is no excuse. So here's the big question, and everybody should pay very close attention to this one. It's simply this: do you sell to consumers who or persons who work at home? And the FTC considers persons who work at home, even though they may be small businesses, to be consumers. So do you sell products or services to them? Or even if you don't sell anything, if you're collecting personal information such as a name or an email address, and if these persons are located in the United States, do you answer yes? And if you answer yes, then that means that the Federal Trade Commission has jurisdiction over you. And that further means that they have jurisdiction and the right and the power and authority to go after not only your business assets, but your personal and family assets. So if you answered yes to the question, which I'm assuming most, if not all of you have done, nobody's dropped off that I can see. So everybody either is answering yes that you do it now or you plan to in the near future. Let me introduce you to your 800-pound gorilla. And let me suggest to you that every time you write a headline on your sales page or make a promotional post on a social media account, this guy is looking over your shoulder and watching you and evaluating exactly what you're doing to determine if you're engaged in deceptive marketing practices. Really? Not really. This is a metaphor, of course. Some people prefer the elephant in the room. I like the 800-pound gorilla. I think it's just much more descriptive of what the FTC is all about. And let me suggest this, that right now, this gorilla is in control, actually in control of your, not only your business assets, but your personal assets by default. So the only way you can get control is to actually take action and seize control from this gorilla, and then thereby protect your business and personal assets. So how do you do it? There's a very simple secret, and here it is, and that is successful marketing strategies always, not sometimes, but always include built-in legal strategies. And, it's sort of like Ken is a former real estate guy. Maybe he still is. And, the secret to successful investing in real estate is buy low and sell high, right? And it's pretty simple and easy to state, but the execution of that principle might be a little tricky and difficult. And it's the same here. We're going to show you how it's simple and easy a little bit later, but that's the secret. And before we go any further, I'm going to ask, Ken, are you looking? Can you tell if someone is answering questions in the chat box?
I can.
You're monitoring.
I can, and you guys, one thing I did forget to mention at the beginning is use that chat box so we can talk to you.
Well, I just want to see if everybody's receptive to doing a little demo here that illustrates this secret, this principle. Do we see a few yeses up there to encourage me to do this?
Let me see some
What do you
yeses.
say?
Yep, I'm seeing. I'm seeing a bunch of yeses coming through. Gail, Jason.
Okay, all right. Let's get right to it. So everybody now, play along with me. You're going to hold your hands out in front of you, in front of the screen, and the thumbs are going to be up, and there's going to be 4 or 5 inches between the palms of your hands, right? Now wiggle the fingers on your right hand. These fingers represent your marketing strategies, and this is early in 2016, right? And so many of you have formulated strategies that you're going to follow to grow your business this year. So those fingers on the right hand represent those strategies. Many of them probably new for this year. Now, wiggle the fingers on your left hand. They represent the legal strategies that would protect you, that would be in compliance with the FTC for you to protect your business. Now, as long as your hands are apart 4 or 5 inches, then you are not seizing control of your assets from this gorilla. But now join the palms together and intertwine your fingers, right? This is a representation of what we believe you clearly should be doing, whereby your business strategies and your legal strategies are supporting each other. This is where you need to be. If you take your hands and move them apart again, this is probably where you are right now. You're vulnerable. But if you join these two sets of strategies together, that's the secret. That represents the secret for how to go about protecting your assets. And if you do that, you can put your hands down now. Thanks very much for participating. You'll be able to worry-proof your online business. And I promise you that later in this presentation, I will show you a very simple and easy system, very cost-effective to do just that. You'll be able to worry-proof your online business. First, a little bit of housekeeping. This presentation is for informational purposes only. It's not legal advice. No attorney-client relationship is created, and we're certainly not endorsed by the Federal Trade Commission. Now, if you stay on until the end of the call, Alan Cutts will explain to you exactly how you can get a very valuable book, if I say so myself. It goes into a lot of detail about how you can stay in compliance. It will help you do that. An excellent reference material, if I say so myself. So be sure to hang on to the end of the call, and Alan will explain to you exactly how you can get your free copy of this book. Now, a quick summary of my background for purposes, and I'm not bragging or anything. I want you to understand where I come from so that you can understand that I have the authority, I guess, to make this presentation to you. So very quickly, I've practiced law a long time. I'm a partner in the Jones and Haley law firm in Atlanta. My area, of course, is internet law, SaaS, or software as a service, software, intellectual property. I've even served as adjunct professor of software law at Wake Forest University School of Law for 20 years. I've published 4 books in the field, and I've been interviewed a few times on television for my latest book, as Alan pointed out, on big data recently. So that's a quick summary of the background. I do a lot of done-for-you FTC compliance for internet marketers and online businesses. I do branding and trademark software and SaaS, and I do a lot of complex online models, marketplaces, platforms, that sort of thing. There's no need to go into detail there, but I think you have an idea of what what I do, and I would very much like for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. All you have to do is search for Chip Cooper. You'll find me, and I'll be happy to accept you in as one of my connections. So what are we going to cover? I promise that we're going to cover at least 3 basic things. Number one, and this is really important, why the FTC is now going after the little guys, and I apologize to you. I don't think you're a little guy, right? Even though you may be a solo entrepreneur in business for yourself, you're one of my heroes. You're driving the economy. You're taking risks. You're growing businesses. And maybe one day you'll hire people, who knows, or maybe a VA or somebody, maybe a full-time employee. You're the guys that are driving the economy. The FTC thinks you're little guys, so that's why I use the term, and why you should be worried. Very important information. Secondly, what it's actually like to get sued by the Federal Trade Commission. And this gets people crazy. How your bank accounts and personal assets can be frozen and lost forever. We'll go into detail on that. And then number 3, real life examples. And when I say examples, I mean actual cases. That's the war stories I referred to earlier of people who didn't think they were at risk. In other words, they didn't know what they didn't know, but who got nailed by the FTC and why it could happen to you too, and what to do about it. So those are my 3 basic promises, plus, of course, the promise that we'll show you a very simple and easy and very cost-effective solution. We'll get to that a little bit later. So, number 1, why is the FTC now going after the little guys, so to speak? And you need to understand that there's a very key date here, and that would be 2009, because prior to 2009, we had a period of time which I refer to as the Wild Wild West. Almost anything went, very little regulation, almost no enforcement, and that's gone now because beginning in 2009, we had an incredible increase, and I call it a tsunami of new laws and regulations affecting online businesses, and not only new laws and regulations, but extremely aggressive enforcement. So 2009 is a pivotal year. And then we have another year, 2014, where we start a drill down from the big guys. Because you look back in that 2009 to 2014, most of the defendants that the FTC brought cases against were the big guys, the Googles and the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world. But now it's the smaller entrepreneurs, as we'll see. And this is an extremely important slide because a lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to think, well, I can sort of fly under the radar, or I can hide on the back row, so to speak. That's not true anymore because the FTC might be targeting the big violator on the front row, the guy with the target on his head. But you know, you're doing a lot of the same things. So as they're building a case against the guy with the target on his head on the front row, they discover all sorts of other marketers who are doing essentially the same thing, maybe not to the same scale, but the same thing. So they might bring a case against everybody. They've done it in a number of cases. Weight loss, for example, they did it. They did it in the work for home area. So you really might think you're hiding back there, but in this day and age, it's just not true. So it's very important to understand you cannot fly under the radar. And I've searched for a slide that I think is illustrative of the situation we're all in now, beginning in 14, and this is about the best one I can come up with. Hopefully I'll get a better one. But there's also a new trend probably, and I'm not sure exactly, but I see the beginning of it. And you know, we're in an era of relationship marketing. You've probably seen this quote or some version of it. New marketing is about the relationships, not the medium. And of course, social media has a lot to do with that. Also, the number of cases that the FTC is bringing against marketers is now becoming more reported in the news and in the press, and all these other factors actually contribute to what may be the drivers of this new trend, which is essentially that now you see that compliance is now integrated into relationship marketing, meaning that a lot of consumers are starting to understand a little bit about this. And if they go on your website, for example, and they see a website privacy policy that's got 5 paragraphs in it, and basically we respect your privacy and it's not up to date, they're probably not going to do business with you. And they probably know, many of them anyway, you know, what an up-to-date privacy policy looks like and what it doesn't. So being in compliance now might be, you know, something that helps you build know, like, and trust with a prospective customer, and will help you get business. That may be the new trend. So let's move to the second promise, what it's actually like to get sued. You don't want to be here, but you certainly need to know what it's like and what the steps are for the FTC in building a case against you. And it's common knowledge, but we need to talk about it, and that is you're online 24/7, right? So any person who works at the FTC, either at their main office in Washington or in any of their regional offices, all they have to do is go visit your website, look at what your sales page says, look at your claims that you're making for your product or service, which are known as ad claims, wonder if you have substantiation, flip over and go down to the bottom and look at your privacy policy, see if it's up to date, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Go to your social media pages and see what kind of promotional posts you're making, that sort of thing. So it's so easy to sit at a desk far away and monitor what you're doing. So one of the ways the FTC begins to build a case is simply by direct observation. Now, another way is that they have an extremely comprehensive complaint form, and I like to use the term funnel because they use funnels in much the same way that marketers use marketing funnels, except they're looking for complaints rather than prospects. And so this is a clip of the top of the first page, but don't be fooled. It's really much more comprehensive than this. They're looking for a lot of information about you. Someone's unhappy, they didn't get the refund they expected, et cetera, et cetera. That's where they might go and start filing a lot of information that might lead to a case against you. Also, in terms of their funnels, they actually have a Facebook page, and if you look down on the lower right-hand corner, they have a link that will take you to where they get a lot of gripes. This is not as formal as their complaint form, but they do view it, and sometimes they get some information that might lead to some further information gathering about you. So this is another funnel for information that could lead to a case against you. Now, in addition to funnels, which marketers use, marketers typically use affiliate networks. We all know what they are, and the FTC does as well, and here are some of them. I'm not going to go into detail. News articles, blog posts, people complaining about what you're doing, but there are three here that are extremely important, and they're highlighted in yellow. The first is the Better Business Bureau, and it's significant because a lot of consumers are not yet aware of the FTC complaint form. If they Google FTC complaint, they'll see it as the #1 hit, right? But they're not aware of the form. But every single consumer has heard of the Better Business Bureau. So in many cases, they go there to file complaints. But guess what? In many cases, the FTC, the Better Business Bureau refers these straight to the FTC. So they're a funnel. And also an affiliate that refers cases or complaints to the FTC, and also advocacy groups. You see the red arrow there. There are a lot of persons who are extremely passionate about privacy, and if they suspect that there's a privacy violation, if they suspect that your policy is not up to date, they may file complaints or provide information to the Federal Trade Commission about you. And then finally, very significant, each state has its own consumer protection laws, and of course the FTC is the preeminent authority in terms of consumer protection. But what you need to understand is that there are 28 of the states that have consumer protection laws that are patterned very closely after the Federal Trade Commission Act, such that most attorneys refer to them as so-called little FTC acts. So not only do you have the Federal Trade Commission bringing cases, and of course they get a lot of the publicity, you also have 28 state attorneys general doing the same thing, and a lot of times they'll bring the same case against the same defendant. So it's really 29 attorneys general and the FTC looking for complaints. So it's lots going on out there. Now, what you might get in terms of building a case after some of this information is filtered through the funnels and through the affiliates is you might get a letter from the FTC asking for information about your marketing practices. And if you do, you know that you're now being targeted, which is what you don't want to be, right? So it might be a little bit tricky on how to answer those questions. In many cases you see an attorney, but when it becomes more formal, you will get something called a civil investigative demand. Essentially, it's a subpoena requesting a lot of information about your business. And by that time, you'll definitely go to an attorney, and the attorney will probably say that the requests are overbroad. It's a fishing expedition. There's too much information they're asking for. It's unreasonable. So what we're going to do is we're going to file a petition, which is similar to a motion, to quash, which is a fancy legal term to reduce the scope of this thing, and then we'll make it more reasonable. But here's what you need to understand. If you look at the very top, the party that actually hears or reviews your petition to quash is not theoretically an objective court of law. It's the Federal Trade Commission, which is the agency that filed the CID to begin with. So essentially the FTC is judge, jury, and hangman here, so to speak. And guess what? Almost all of these are routinely denied, as this one was. So you're in the net now, and you've got to provide a tremendous amount of information that they use to build a case against you. So now as we move to the actual cases, this one is against a smaller company, a so-called little guy known as Apply Knowledge. They were involved in the sale of coaching programs, and their problem was with deceptive testimonials. And this is a clip of maybe the top third of the complaint that was filed in the U.S. District Court in Utah, and an order was granted by the court here. Now, pay close attention to the left column. You see that the plaintiff, of course, is the FTC, and below it you see a couple of entities involved, Apply Knowledge and a couple of related ones, or one, yeah, at least one. But what you don't see, and what is extremely significant, is you don't see the names of the people who worked in these organizations, the marketers, right? And what you need to understand is that they would appear lower on the left column, and you need to further understand that all the FTC has to show is that these people either participated in writing the sales pages or the promotional posts, or they managed the people who did it, or they just knew about it, right? Which is a pretty easy thing to show. So once they can show those things, or believe they can based on the information they've collected, they list it there, and you are nailed personally, not just the entities, but you personally. And this is where, you know, your personal assets become at risk. And so you see on the right-hand side that the court has granted a temporary restraining order, an asset freeze, and also appointed a receiver. And we'll see what that means here in just a second with this actual case against a company known as Online Entrepreneur, again involving coaching programs, but instead of testimonials, deceptive ads, right? And so here you see the appointment of a receiver. So what is a receiver? What do they do? Actually, they just take over your business. They show you the door and they take it over. And you can see here, this is actual language taken from the court order. In Part A, I've circled full control, right? Removing as receiver deems necessary to advise or advisable any officer, any director, officer, independent contractor, employee, etc. So there you go. Out the door, the receiver takes over your business, and B, he or she takes exclusive custody control of all your assets and everything. So that's what a receiver is, and what a receiver is ordered to do by the court. You're out of business at this point, and you haven't even had an opportunity to make an argument yet. And then this is additional language in the same order regarding the asset freeze. And for some reason, I think the receiver is worse than the asset freeze, or it's hard to tell which is worse, right, as between the two. But this one seems to get people crazier, the fact that they can freeze your bank accounts. And so you see the language, hereby restraining, enjoin from, assigning, concealing, converting, et cetera, and then you see any asset underlined, which means your bank accounts, you can't do anything with them. And this is your personal bank accounts, right? Your personal investment accounts. How do you pay your bills? It's pretty tough if everything is frozen. This makes people crazy for the obvious reasons. So a third case, now this one involving a company known as Commerce Planet. It was a membership site, and they failed to disclose continuity payments. You know, the payments for a membership site, $30 or $40 a month, that sort of thing, until the member cancels. There are very significant disclosures that need to be made prior to the time that the prospective member pulls out his or her credit card, and they were not made here. The FTC brought a case. And what I want to explain to you is exactly how the FTC works with their settlement demands, because once they file the case, and in many cases they get the TRO, as we've seen with the receiver and the asset freeze, then they make what is known as a non-negotiable settlement offer. Not negotiable, take it or leave it, right? And in this particular case, which is illustrative of what is common practice, one of the people who worked in Commerce Planet, named Aaron Gravitz, decided to take the offer of $192,000 and be out of it, right? And so he did. The other guy, Charles Gugliusa, decided, by the way, Charles is an attorney, not a practicing attorney at that time. He decided to become an online marketer, and he thought he could win. He thought he could beat the FTC at their own game. He decided to litigate, and he lost, of course, and he was nailed for $18.2 million. And early last year, he filed for bankruptcy and tried to get the $18.2 million judgment discharged in bankruptcy. And of course, it's not dischargeable because it's viewed as a fraud claim. And so he's hanging around now with this $18.2 million judgment. Okay, then when you finally get to a final order in the case, there are almost always three parts to it. One is a permanent ban or an injunction enjoining you from continuing the practices that they sued you for to begin with. The big one is the second one, which are fines that are huge, as you've just seen, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, in many cases, sometimes in the millions. And again, you're talking personal liability, family assets, and you can't discharge it in bankruptcy. And then third, they like to impose compliance reporting, which is sort of like being audited by the Internal Revenue Service every year, right? They ask for a lot of information about your employment, what you're doing, particularly if you continue in the online marketing area. And these things last on average between 10 and 20 years. Very burdensome, a real headache, and you got to, for a long period of time comply. So this is what the final order looks like. It is life-changing. It is not something to be it is not a risk to be assumed, right? This is something you need to take steps to avoid at all costs. So let's get involved in a couple of additional cases. Again, there were people who probably just didn't know what they didn't know. And one, a very popular website, Snapchat. Snapchat basically has built a great business on the idea that that certain texts and photographs, images, you can put a timer on them, and their promise in their privacy policy on their website was, as you see here, that the message or the snap or chat or whatever will disappear forever once the timer runs out, right? That was their claim in their privacy policy. They had other statements as well that got them in trouble about they didn't collect location data, which they did, and they claimed that they had reasonable security measures for the information they collected, which they didn't. The big one was their promise that these messages would disappear forever wasn't really true. A lot of them did, but some of them didn't. So the FTC says if you make these statements and they're not absolutely true, then you're liable for a deceptive marketing practice and a lawsuit. A final order against them in 2014, the ban comprehensive privacy program and a 20-year compliance program, but no fines for some strange reason. And then finally, I want to introduce you, if you haven't heard of Frank Kern. Has everybody heard of Frank Kern? I mean, do we see some yeses out there? Does everybody know who Frank Kern is? Do we see some yeses?
I'll be seeing Mr. Kern in a couple of days. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Kern is one of the icons, one of the pioneers, one of the heavyweights in the area of online marketing. I had the pleasure of meeting him last year along with my partner, Alan Cutts. We went to one of his events and participated in some of his training. Excellent training. And I really got to know him better. I like the guy. He's extremely entertaining, very funny guy, very knowledgeable. And if you've not invested in any of his programs, you might ought to consider it. But the reason I mention this here is that Frank got nailed by the Federal Trade Commission way back in the Wild Wild West in the early 2000s. And I'm going to give you some of Frank's lessons. He's published a blog post entitled "What It's Like to Get Sued by the FTC." You might Google it after this call, not during it, because I'm going to give you a summary of his lessons, and this is a clip of the original case. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail about what was involved, but essentially, he bought some ebooks that had resale rights or sub-licensing rights, and he bundled them together and then relicensed them, at a price far less than the sum total of the parts, so to speak, right? The problem was he didn't do it on a white label basis. He did it in a package that included his image, his website, his name, and so he had all these people who were buying these resale rights materials and then reselling them, but it looked like he was doing it all because they were doing it with his name and his branding, and the FTC said it looked like an illegal pyramid scheme, and technically it might not have been, but it sure looked like one, so they sued the guy, right? And in 2003, he finally settled, again, the 3 parts, permanent ban, $247,000, a copy of the order to all of his purchasers, which were thousands, I think about 16,000, and then at that time only a 5-year compliance program. Now, you need to understand here that Frank went the extra mile here. He actually hired an attorney to advise him. I mean, how many people do that? Actually hired an attorney, and the attorney said, "Hey, this is cool, everything's fine." Of course, the attorney was a tax attorney, probably couldn't spell the word internet, didn't know what he was doing, and Frank proceeded. But at least he tried to do the right thing. And he finally decided to settle after he'd already spent about $100,000 in legal fees. And one day he realized, it just doesn't pay to do war with the federal government with their almost unlimited resources. So then, after he invests all this money in legal fees, he decides to settle to get out from under the thing. So let's look at Frank's lessons. This is Frank's language, in quotes, not me. This is Frank talking, one of the top internet marketers of all time. Number one, you don't have to be a star, baby, to be in my show. And I think he referred to the fact that he's the star, but all the sub-licensees under him were creating all of the complaints. He didn't get virtually no complaints against him. All of the sub-licensees were creating it, but they caused the problem. Number two, disclaimers don't matter. Well, they do if they're used properly, right? But if you have an ad claim such as earn $10,000 in your first month with this opportunity, but then you have a disclaimer that says don't believe anything we say, which is contradictory, then the FTC doesn't like that, and that's what he means there. Number three, the FTC is complaint driven. We've already seen that in the slides earlier. Number four, and this one's a good one, if you're worried that what you're doing might get you into trouble, it probably will. Yeah, I think I agree with that one. Number five, if everyone else is doing it and they're a lot worse than you can still get into trouble. I think this reminds me of my slide with you remember the guy on the front row with the target on his head, and you're on the back row. I think this is what he's trying to say here in lesson number 5. And then lesson number 6, for Christ's sake, get a good lawyer. You remember he got a good lawyer. It's just that the lawyer wasn't knowledgeable and experienced in the area of online marketing and certainly FTC compliance. So you need to make sure if you're going to hire one to get one that works in the area and is very familiar with everything. So this is his final lesson. The FTC is the FTC. Your best course of action is to try to be obnoxiously compliant with their regulations. I think that's very good advice. And again, it's not from me. You would expect to get this from me, right? I'm an attorney. This is what I do. I'm not in law enforcement. I mean, I'm not here trying to find people who are in violation. I try to protect them. right? So but you would expect me to say you need to be compliant. But here's one of the leaders in the field saying not only to be compliant, but to be obnoxiously compliant. And in the presentation where my partner Cutts and I participated out in California late last year with him, one of the things he said that moved me, I hadn't thought about it before. You remember one of the things that the final order required him to do was to send a copy of the order to everybody who had bought, which to him was extremely humiliating. I hadn't really thought about that, but he said he almost quit and gave up online marketing. But then he had a number of people who emailed him and said, "Don't quit. You're doing the right thing. Stay with it." And so, he decided to hang with it, but he almost quit. And so, I didn't know that about him, and I was glad to learn that, and certainly glad to know that he hung in there and he's as successful as he is today. Now, what we've talked about thus far is compliance for FTC regulations, right? And the trouble that you can get in if you simply don't know what you don't know, right? But here are a couple of actual war stories that occurred in my law practice that do not involve the FTC, but involve the Copyright Act, which gets a lot of people in trouble when they, again, don't know what they don't know. And here we have a situation where my client was creating a children's book. And if you know anything about them, you know that there's not much text but a lot of images to appeal to kids, right? And so they had mocked up a few images of the main characters of the book, and they wrote the text. But they were not artists, so they wanted to outsource the creation of these images that would be the scenes or settings for each page that included these characters, right? So they outsourced that, and they then learned that the artist was starting to essentially claim ownership of these images. They paid serious money for these images to be created. The art was excellent. I've seen it. I reviewed it. But all of a sudden, my client, who paid the independent contractor, outsourcer, were shocked to learn that that person was considered the owner, right? And so they came to me, and I said, well, here's the simple rule. If you're dealing with an independent contractor, you need a written agreement signed by the contractor stipulating that the work product, the images, will be a work made for hire. And if those three requirements are not satisfied, guess what? They own it. By default, you have a license to use it, but they own it. They can do anything. They can compete with you. And of course, they were shocked to learn that. So that's the way the Copyright Act works. It's like a big software program that works in the background, whether you know about it or agree with it or not. It's there and it operates. And so you can see in the third bullet, $10,000 plus. That's what it cost in my legal fees to negotiate a settlement with these people. Of course, they had the leverage. We didn't. So we had to work out a deal and had to negotiate back and forth. And so that's a horror story that I helped a client work out because they didn't understand how the Copyright Act works. And here's another one. My client had written an ebook and really done probably not 90%, which is what the first bullet indicates, but really close to 95% of the text in the ebook, but then went to someone else to do a little bit of some editing, adding a little bit of text, 5 to 10%, and then my client learns that the other participator or collaborator was claiming joint ownership under the Copyright Act. Now, that's okay, except that there are certain assumptions that the Copyright Act makes when there are two or more authors of the same work. That's a joint work under the Copyright Act, right? And so the result of that, according to the statute, is the presumption that everybody is an equal contributor. But under the facts here, my client contributed 90 or 95%, and the other party only 5 or 10%, right? So now the 5 or 10% contributor under the Copyright Act is entitled to an equal share of profits, equal rights to grant licenses, non-exclusive, equal rights to create new versions, which was not what they intended, but this was the result. So the way to solve this problem is with a collaboration agreement that stipulates exactly what the 10% contributor actually would get, not equal, but something much less. And so we had to work this one out. Again, fairly significant legal fees trying to negotiate a settlement because we had no leverage. So it's another example of basically shooting your foot off because you don't know what you don't know about the U.S. Copyright Act. So that's important as well, along with FTC compliance. So we've covered the three basic areas that I promised, why the FTC is now going off after the little guys and why you should be worried if you're a little guy, what it's like to get sued in great detail, and then three of these real-life examples of these people who didn't know they were at risk but who got nailed and why it can happen to you. So here's a summary. Why don't we see, I mean, let's ask everybody, do they feel, do the people on this call feel that they're at fault here? I mean, this is a difficult thing because do we see yeses? What do we see out there?
Do we see victims or do we see people that are, I mean,
do we see people who don't understand why it's this way?
Yeah.
Why the legal system works this way? Do they feel that, you know, how do they figure it out?
You got a specific question for him, Chip? A very specific question for him, and we'll see what we get.
Well, I mean, do they feel that basically because of some of these rules and regulations that it's really their fault? I mean, that they're, you know, that they're sort of a wrongdoer or a potential wrongdoer, or do they feel that that it's not their fault and they don't really have to worry about it? I mean, what do they feel?
I think the way the question is being answered, people are countered because some people are saying they're the victim and some people are saying they're not the victim. I think it's dependent on what side of the coin that they're on, right? Are they the consumer or are they the business owner?
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah, because you've had two. There's been a couple examples too, like that first company, that Action company. There's actually somebody that's with us that got ripped off by them. Mary was tricked by that Applied Knowledge company. So she's a victim as the consumer, right? And Applied Knowledge, definitely the bad guy.
Right.
But yet Frank, not with the intention of hurting anybody, is also the victim. You know, so I think we're all going to be scared here.
You're right. I mean, we're all marketers here, right? Every one of us, because nobody dropped off the call when I asked the big question at the beginning, right? We all answered yes to it. But we're all also consumers. So we I guess have some comfort in knowing that there's the FTC and the 28 little FTC acts that are enforced by the attorney generals are out there protecting us. But if we're on the other side of the coin, it sort of feels bad that, you know, we probably don't have the knowledge that we need to protect ourselves, and we could end up thinking that we're doing the right thing, that we're fair-minded, that we're ethical, right? All of us think we're probably ethical, but we can still get into massive trouble even if we're ethical. That's, I guess, the point I'm trying to make. And ignorance.
Can I hop in here for just a second? I just want to ask a question. Maybe we can, you know, and I'm assuming that we'll get some yeses here. Is everybody on this call in one form or another is a consumer? Wouldn't you agree? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody on this call in one form or another is a consumer. Most of you probably in the U.S. I'm assuming yes. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
So we do have a bunch of people from Australia as well, like Carol's.
Okay. So if you're a consumer in the U.S., the Federal Trade Commission's job is to protect you as a consumer. So as a business owner, like I am, like Chip is, like you may be as well, you're also a business owner, then the Federal Trade Commission's job is to put out certain rules and regulations that you must follow in order to protect the consumer, which is the other side of you, right? The flip of the coin, the other part of you. So wouldn't you think that it's, a good thing that the Federal Trade Commission has these rules and regulations in place to protect you when you're a consumer, but then also give you the knowledge and the information that you need to follow those rules when you're a business owner? Yes? Absolutely. Yep.
But here's the catch. The FTC is doing about the best that it can to so-called get the information out. Every time they bring a case, every time they settle a case, they issue press releases that they hope people will write about and talk about in order to educate marketers such as you, right? And then sometimes, even when they're not bringing a case, when they have, for example, the first week of this month, they brought out a new enforcement policy for native ads. We're going to have a hangout about that for our members. We'll talk about that more in a few minutes because we want our members to be up to date on all of this stuff as it happens. So they put it out, but you know, it takes a while for the information to filter down to the marketers. Where do they go find it? How do they read it? How do they understand it? You know, that's what we do for you. We'll get to that in just a minute. So they do a good job with the very limited resources to get the message out, but the problem is most of you don't know what you don't know. That's the point I want to make, and it's not your fault. It's just that that's the way it is. Ignorance is no excuse, and the penalty for just being ignorant and trying to do the right thing and being ethical, they don't really care if you're ethical. As long as you don't follow their regulations, they can ruin your life, basically. And the price is so high, it's a life-changing event. That's really what I'm talking about. So what is your best option in order to protect yourself and not only do the right thing, but be in compliance? Of course, it's to hire an attorney, right? The problem is it's expensive. And here are some figures that I've come up with from talking to other people who've gotten these numbers from other attorneys. Website compliance, $2,500 to $3,000. And if you have a membership site, which is highly regulated because of the annuity plan to it, another couple of $1,000s. And then if you want to get into some marketing documents and intellectual property protection, throw in another $3,000. And then the last one is a question mark. It's really open-ended because these regulations don't stop. They come all the time. I told you just 2 weeks ago we had, or 3 weeks ago, we had a new one that came out about native ads, and they're coming out all the time. So how do you keep up? One step is just how do you get in compliance today, but another one is how do you remain there? And you've got to have a source for being educated with new developments as they occur, not later. And the cost of that can be really prohibitive. So if you don't have the budget to hire a lawyer, then what is your next best option? I can tell you there's no question in my mind that it's to become a pro-level member of FTC Guardian. So what do you get if you become a member of FTC Guardian at the pro level? Well, to begin with, you get a blueprint. I mean, good grief, that's how you start. This is a clip from the top of the page, and it's several pages long that has diagrams, shows you exactly what to do. You also get customized documents with what I call RBDA technology that protect you right now. Now, the explanation of RBDA is that we're not talking templates here where you fill in the blanks. What we're talking about are documents that essentially don't even exist. They're just a massive database with thousands of clauses that I created in logic so that all you do is answer questions the way you would if you were talking to me as an attorney. I would say, okay, tell me about your business and we'll create a privacy policy for you. So I'd ask you questions, you'd answer them, and then I'd create the policy. So that's exactly what happens when you use RBDA. There's a question, you do the answer, there's some help text to help you, and sometimes the question you're asked now depends on an answer you gave previously, so there's a logic tree. When you get to the end, you hit submit, and then the software goes and grabs the clauses that are indicated by your answers, it assembles the thing on the fly, numbers them, all that stuff, spits out a completely customized document in about 3 or 4 seconds. So it's much more powerful because it really goes into detail about your specific requirements. It's not just a fill-in-the-blank, customized, cookie-cutter form. And we have far more documents than what you need to just set your website up, which are terms of use, privacy policy, and that sort of thing. We have a number of supplemental documents. The total you see here, approximately 85. They're not all listed. There's just some examples here. We have intellectual property protection documents, and you see there the collaboration agreement. That's what was needed to avoid the second copyright disaster. And you see customer agreements. I see a lot of online businesses that don't have these things. They're just, selling memberships without a membership agreement. We have coaching agreements, speaking engagement agreements, all sorts of things there. Those are just a couple of examples. And then we have what I call channel marketing agreements that you use when you're using intermediaries such as affiliates, joint venture partners, resellers, that sort of thing. So it's a total of, I think, about 86 or 87 documents. We're adding those all the time. A massive collection of documents. And guess what? This is not something I cobble together to sell on the internet. This is what I use every day. In my law practice, this is my tool that I'm making available to you as part of this membership online. And here's a collection of documents that really are targeted for Kindle authors, but they're also applicable to people who create course materials, manuals, anything like that. I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm sometimes asked the question, well, I'm a Kindle author, what do you have? Well, here is a sample of what we have that would be targeted directly to what you need. Then you also get trust seal rights, and we believe that that's a significant factor in building know, like, and trust to enhance customer confidence. Very significant there. And you also get what I call a baseline of training in the form of very simple 3 to 5 minute videos by me on the basic rules that protect you now and into the future. And when I say rules, I mean the basic strategies. You remember when we did our little finger deal and the fingers on the left hand were these strategies? Well, that's exactly what you get here. And here are some of the topics. And I remember some time ago when I was putting all this stuff together, somebody said to me, Cooper, you're talking like a lawyer here. One of your topics is work made for hire. Well, what in the world is that? That probably appeals to you as an attorney, but to me, it doesn't. What you're talking about is outsourcing, right? I said, yeah, that's when work made for hire, which is a copyright concept, that's when it comes into play. Well, this guy says, look, why don't you rename these topics so that they resonate with what people actually do? So here you go. You need to know about the FTC. A lot of it you learned just a few minutes ago. Website compliance, outsourcing. That does cover work made for hire. Using material of others. What about downloading these images from Google? Are they copyrighted? Do you have the right to do it? What kind of trouble can you get in? Marketing agreements, advertising, testimonials. Everybody uses them, right? So we have the subject matter broken down into categories that you follow every day. Everybody on this call, I'm willing to bet, will either now do these things or in the near future do them, and all of the training is there for you. Now, this is something that really we've tried for the last 2 years. We think we've perfected it. We're getting rave reviews from our members, and that is, you remember that when I talked about the attorney, the question mark about how do you stay current? Well, this is how you do it. Twice a month, every month except for December, we take time off for Christmas. But we have twice a month Google Hangouts, and it's not one of these long webinar kind of things. It's a streamlined 20-minute presentation by me and then 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A live. So you have a shot to ask me virtually any question, certainly about the topic, and we get topics from members. And I'm going to ask Alan. Alan, you still there?
I'm here.
The reason I'm asking Alan is one of the things that we're extremely proud of is it's not just the legal stuff. I mean, I'm the lawyer. I do a lot of legal stuff, and we talk about that. But one of the great contributions of these Hangouts is, again, how Alan adds the marketing aspect of what we're talking about. Because, again, you remember the little finger deal we did, the intertwined fingers. A lot of the legal stuff doesn't really make sense unless you actually relate it to marketing activities and strategies, and that's what Alan does. You want to add a couple of comments?
If you're online marketing, and this is where you'll really get the benefit, not only the benefit of having an attorney like Chip who does this for a living full-time, providing you with the documents, providing you with the knowledge twice a month on what to do, but you also have someone like myself who's been around for, I'm 55 years old, so I've been online marketing for since 95, I guess, something like that. I've worked for myself forever. But you'll get the background of marketing because I pitch everything off of Chip. It's like, hey, this is what we want to do, or this is what's new in the marketplace. The whole native ad thing when that came around, and when retargeting came around, I'm throwing all this stuff at Chip. It's like we need to check into this stuff because I know we have members at high levels that are doing these types of things, that are running Facebook ads, that are running ad roll ads, that are doing content marketing, that are doing articles, stuff like that. So I run all this stuff past Chip. And that is where a lot of our hangout material and stuff like that helps keep people up to date. So it keeps Chip on his toes instead of just being kind of the corporate internet lawyer. I bring a lot of the entrepreneurial stuff that we are all doing to Chip, and then Chip has to sharpen the saw and make sure he knows what's going on in this arena. So it's been really good combination for both of us.
It really is, and the fact that Alan and I talk all the time about these topics, and there's some things that, I mean, even though I know enough to be dangerous about internet marketing, what Alan does with his funnels and all the strategies and tactics he uses, there's some questions I have. He explains that, and then we talk about how the law actually applies in the real world, not in some legal ivory tower, right? And then we make a presentation of it. So this is extremely valuable, and again, we've received rave reviews, and I have absolutely no idea where you could go twice a month and have an opportunity to ask not only an internet attorney, and by the way, I practice law all the time, and a top flight marketer such as Alan about how all these things work and interact. It's a unique opportunity, and our members really like it. Now, one thing to remember is that we have a heck of a lot of information in our members area. We have the videos, and every time we do a hangout, it's recorded and filed away there in the members area. So how in the world do you find the stuff? Well, we've got keywords in terms of tags. All you have to do is search on tags, and you will find everything we have on that topic. So it's really easy to find out information if you've got a simple question. Want to know about retargeting ads? What is it all about? What are the legal requirements? All you have to do is key in retargeting, and you see probably 4 or 5 hangouts that we have, maybe some other training as well. So it's easy to find very, very quickly. And I'm not going to go into great detail on these testimonials, but here's one. It says that we're off the charts when it comes to protecting solo entrepreneurs. I'm investing because it's a great time saver, great best peace of mind insurance I've ever seen. Thank you. And so here's another one. And this person, I'll tell you in advance, says that she has a legal background, which I think means that she's an attorney. So she's really saying 3 big reasons she invested. And she says by the time I create all the required documents, she's talking about creating the documents herself, that Google requires if you want good search engine results. It's not just the FTC in many cases. Google and Facebook require certain documents. It would take me hours to research and prepare, even though I've got a legal background. At my fees, it's crazy to prepare myself, and never mind the revisions as the law changes. Number 2, so much easier to stay up to date. And again, she's talking about the hangouts with the legal landscape, like having my own research team for a song. And then number 3, I've sampled other programs out there, and this is far superior, even though one is run by an attorney, a business attorney, but not an internet specialist and not a firm of legal minds. And I might add, that doesn't throw in all the marketing stuff that Alan does. It just isn't anything better out there. I've looked. So we appreciate that testimonial as well. And of course, we have specific testimonials on Hangouts. This one's talking about ownership of work product, the outsourcing situation I just mentioned. And you see there, I have another topic. So a lot of our Hangout topics are suggested by members. Super impressed, looking forward to future events. So we're having a lot of rave reviews. Now, fair warning, you really don't want to try to figure this stuff out. I mean, I don't think anybody would want to do it anyway. It's complicated, and by all means, you shouldn't be copying somebody else's website documents, particularly their privacy policy, because the privacy policy is the document that will get you in trouble. Remember the Snapchat case, there are certain statements that you make about what you'll do and what you won't do. And if you don't follow up and keep those promises, which the FTC views as promises, right? The statements you make are promises according to them. then you're liable for deceptive marketing practice. So if you copy someone else's, those statements may not match what you're doing, and you could be liable. It could be an open invitation immediately for an FTC claim, and there could also be copyright liability for copying these things. And then, very important, you probably figured out by now that documents alone won't protect you. It's not just, immunize yourself like getting a flu shot in the fall, put a few documents up and then set it and forget it. You really need to understand the strategies. That's really where all these people we talked about in the cases got into trouble. They all had documents, but they really didn't understand the requirements in terms of the reg. So that's where we come in. So there are a couple of final questions I'd like to raise. The first one would be, what if your investment in FTC Guardian would save your business and family assets? Would it be worth it? Well, of course it would. That's a no-brainer. I think the better question is, the more sensible question is this one. What if all you can definitely point to after you've made an investment in what we offer is simply your peace of mind, and if you're married, your spouse's peace of mind, because your spouse's assets are on the line here too, right? Family assets. Knowing that you've taken reasonable steps to protect your business and family assets, would that be worth it? I think it would be, particularly knowing my spouse. And I believe if you're married, you would feel the same way, right? So what'll stop you from investing in our program, the Pro Level membership, right now? You might not like lawyers, and that's fine. I understand it. I've heard all the jokes, and a lot of them are probably well taken. That's fine. That you might believe lawyers are going to harm your marketing. Well, I really don't think so, and here's why. A lot of people have the misconception that lawyers are going to basically shake their finger in your face and say, you can't do this, you can't do this, and that lawyers are almost like working as law enforcement. That's not true. If lawyers are doing their job, they're pointing out where the lines are. Over here is fairly safe, over here is risky, you step over this line, you're in trouble, and you as a business person can make your own decision about how much risk you're comfortable with, right? So the lawyer's supposed to define these lines for you, and then you make those decisions. So the lawyer's not going to tell you what to do or not do. And then the next two bullets are absolutely true. There's a lot to learn, and it takes too much time, and they are true, but we've boiled it down for you. We've made it simple and easy, and we've set out a process for you. So, yeah, it's a lot to learn, and it does take a lot of time, but I've done that for you, and I've simplified it so that it's simple and easy. And then finally, you're not sure it'll make any difference. Well, I can assure you, I can promise to you that if you follow our program, and you don't have to do it all at once, if you just take one step at a time, one bite-sized step at a time, attend these hangouts, I can guarantee you that it will make a huge difference in protecting your business and your family assets. Gosh, I'm not advancing the slide for some reason. Here we go. All right. So now is the time to act. Right now, not in the future, and here's why. You remember our little finger exercise. We're talking successful marketing strategies always include built-in. Built-in is the key. What we're not saying is that you should wait until maybe July when it's half done for the year, and then you can take stock of where you are, because you need to build it in as you go. If you don't build it in as you go, you might have to redo a lot of stuff. Or, when you hit a certain plateau, then you'll start thinking about compliance. That's not the way to do it. Take it small steps as you go and build it in. That's the key. And then this business of set it and forget it is ridiculous. And I've seen this on the internet. To put these documents up on the website, set it and forget it, and you'll be fine. Whoever would make such a ridiculous claim has absolutely no knowledge of the legal system. I can't imagine somebody saying that. And the reason, really, the ultimate reason is they're just too much at risk. I mean, it's a life-changing thing. It's not like normal litigation where, you can raise defenses and you can, get out of, there are all sorts of ways to settle your way out of litigation and negotiate your way out and that sort of thing. And in most cases, they're not after your personal assets. Here, as you've seen with the FTC, they're after everything, your bank accounts, your business, everything. It's just too much to risk to procrastinate doing this. And my promise is to you that when you invest today, you'll actually be happier because now you know that you can, take steps to seize the initiative from this darn gorilla that we talked about at the beginning, and you'll be happier because of it, and you'll feel more successful because you'll have the online tools that we've created for you that make it simple and easy to do that. And then finally, you'll feel more of a sense of freedom because you won't have to worry about this stuff anymore. You'll have a very simple and easy process to follow, and you can focus on what you actually do best, which is building your business. Or if we don't deliver on these promises, you'll get your money back. We've got a 30-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee. And I might say that I don't know the exact number, Alan. Do you know? It's less than 1%. It's like less than 0.5%, I believe, actually request their money back.
Yeah.
I mean, so everybody seems to be pretty satisfied once they jump in, and we certainly believe that you'll do that here. And let me tell you what we think the value is. We have the strategy videos. You remember we talked about. I've put a value. Alan's helped me come up with this $9.97, which we think is reasonable. And then this is the real wild card, so to speak. These hangouts twice a month, because as time goes, the value actually increases over time. We came up with this figure of $2,400, which is extremely low if you consider you hang in the program for a while. And then finally, you have all of these documents, the categories of compliance and intellectual property, $597. Then you have the marketing and promotional documents, another $597. I think that's reasonable. And then you add it all up, the total real value, close to $4,600, which we think is a very reasonable conservative estimate. Now, on our website today, right now, if you were to sign up as a pro-level member, you'd be paying $348 a year. Is that correct, Alan? Is that the correct figure?
So, right.
Yeah, so on the website right now, if you go there, that's what you'll see. But your value, your payment today for a very limited time special offer that Ken sort of beat us up a little bit and said, come on, guys, make this thing really doable. It's only one payment of $297. That's it. Your lifetime member, particularly, and certainly enjoy all of the training as you go, particularly the hangouts. That's it. One payment of $297. That's what we've decided we could do for Ken and his group. A real deal, if I say so myself, because there's no future payment. So to recap, if you really compare it to my hourly rate as an attorney, it's actually less. This $297 is less than what I would charge for a single hour of my billable time, right? So, and you get the customized documents and the strategies and the hangouts, but it's all blended together in a simple and easy process. That's the key, simple and easy, and it's a process you can follow at your own pace. So I'm going to turn this over to Alan. Alan, you're going to take over now and explain exactly how to get this free book and also some other information about the membership.
Yep. Let me do this. I'm going to show my screen. You've got your screen with the book. Let's see if I can move over and this says change presenters. Let go to me.
And as you do that, Chip, let me ask you a question, because we've had a lot of questions about people. A lot of our guys are overseas, some in the UK, a lot in Australia. How does this affect them in terms of their liability and what they need to be doing in terms of best practices?
Good question, and we get it all the time. The simple answer is it really doesn't matter where the seller or marketer is located. You can be in Canada, you can be in Australia, you can be in Europe, you can be anywhere, as long as you're selling to consumers in the U.S. You remember that first question we talked about? If you're selling to or collecting information from consumers or persons who work at home who reside in the U.S., then you're subject to the jurisdiction of the Federal Trade Commission. So if you're located in these other places outside the U.S., if you're selling inside, you're subject. And the FTC goes after people. One of the biggest cases of all was against a Canadian guy named Jesse Willems. Big blockbuster case, I think about 6 years ago, if I remember correctly. Another one not that long ago, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, against a UK entrepreneur smaller than Willems, who was operating some dating websites and doing so deceptively in the UK. They nailed him and a number of others. So the answer is yes. If you're selling into consumers in the United States, you need to be compliant.
You know, I mean, here's my take on this thing, you guys, and that is that for the price of just $297 one time, it's a giant no expense. I mean, it's a giant safety factor for you. It's call it an insurance policy, if you will. Kind of a no-brainer. I mean, kind of really a no-brainer. It's something that, and that's why it was so important for me to get you guys here, because at the end of the day, just the fear or the reduction of fear, the elimination of fear, knowing that you're compliant, is worth to me 10 times that. Just to know that you're going to be safe. I mean, and I got to tell you, when I've been talking to people on the cruise about that I'm going to be doing this for you guys, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, I use this. It's awesome." I mean, universally, everyone that's done anything with FTC Guardian has said this has saved me. So I want to be sure you guys have all that as well. So that's really cool. That's cool. So
I think probably 50% of the cruise people are customers of ours. It was amazing after a year going back again. You know, I've been there for 8 years or whatever, going back and everybody going, when they call people's names, like, oh, they're a member. Oh, they're a member. Oh, they're a member. You just kind of remember who's, you know, who your members are.
Yeah.
And it's really surprising to see how many people are members of FTC Guardian. One of the things I want to jump in here and say, because Chip just mentioned about the UK company and a dating site that got nailed. And then the last thing he said is because of deceptive ad claims or deceptive advertising or whatever. I want to make sure you understand that it's not because they were a dating site or whatever else, or whatever Jesse Willems did, and it was called deceptive. The Federal Trade Commission considers anything that we do in our privacy policy, we put in our privacy policy and that we don't comply with, deceptive. Okay? So it doesn't mean because they were a dating site and they were doing something funky, they were deceptive. Or Jesse Willems, because of what he was doing in the internet marketing world, he was deceptive. It was the way he was doing it based on his privacy policy and what he's doing. So you could be doing deceptive things. You could be totally ethical. You could be, in your heart of heart, think you're doing the right thing, but in the eyes of the FTC, there could be deceptiveness going on between your privacy policy, what you're telling consumers you're doing. I don't track third-party cookies. I don't share your information with others. I don't do, Facebook retargeting, whatever it is, and then you're doing it, whatever those other things. I have certain rules about the way I do native advertising, but then you're doing something else. All of that in the eyes of the FTC is deceptive. And then the other side of that coin is, and we've asked people that several times online, is can the Federal Trade Commission come after me? Why are they going after me personally? It's because you're getting into that deceptiveness. Federal Trade Commission can break it because of that deceptiveness with consumers. So
right, yeah. Let me just jump in. I mean, the whole idea of consumer protection is it is a huge deal, and that's why the FTC is given these enormous powers that most people are totally unaware of, because consumers are it. I mean, we got to protect them, and one of the assumptions, which is sort of true but not, is consumers are basically dumb and can't protect themselves. So the law is overprotecting consumers and also providing massive fines and other issues to impose on the marketers who violate these rules. It's really overkill, but in some cases it's actually warranted. I mean, there are some scammers out there, really, and they get nailed. But there are a lot of people, as Alan just pointed out, who are very ethical, who are not scammers, but they just don't quite follow the rules. They get it too. So that's who we're trying to protect. and I'll turn it back over to Alan.
I'm going to answer a couple of quick questions. The $297 is a one-time pay. This is a special deal we made with Ken on the cruise. It's a one-time pay. You don't pay anything else. It's a membership site. You get full access every single month. I believe if you sign up tonight, our next hangout is Tuesday, right?
It's next Tuesday, I believe, and I believe
this coming Tuesday. This coming Tuesday is our next hangout, and you'll be invited to the next hangout. We have them twice a month, and we keep people up to date. And the next Tuesday is a very important one because it has to do with native advertising and the enforcement law that the Federal Trade Commission just came out with in regards to native advertising. So, if you see my screen, Ken, Chip, somebody, do you see my screen with the hands?
Hang on a second.
Yes.
Okay.
I love the hands thing, Alan.
Yeah. So I just want to jump in here. Guys, if you're hanging in there, this is what we're about. I'm the marketing hand, Chip is the legal hand, and we're about bringing it together because you can't own a business online or offline today without having marketing. I used to think all you needed was marketing. I used to be in that camp for many years of my life, and probably was safe enough there until events have happened. We've been in a changing world. Marketing was everything, but now I understand it, and I'm right there with Chip. And you've got to have your hands together. You've got to have marketing, and you've got to have the legal side embedded in your marketing, so that you're covered your bases in what you're doing. So that's the reason I show that slide for the hands again one more time. I just want to make sure people understand. If you're working online, you've got to have marketing. If you're going to have marketing, you've got to have legal compliance when you're doing it. So let me. I went to the wrong slide. There we go. So I want to run through this. If you go to our website, somebody asked, the $297 is an annual pay or whatever. No, it's $297 one time if you purchase here. If you go to our website later on, it's $348 a year for the pro, or if you pay monthly, I believe it's $48 a month. This is a one-time thing. We made a deal with Ken. We said we'd offer it to him. So,
but the buy link is at the bottom of that slide, correct, Alan? ftcguardian.com/Ken,
yep.
right?
And Ken's link is right there, ftcguardian.com/Ken. So,
yeah, and Carol, try it again because people are getting through. So try, because Carol says she's having trouble. So
yeah, if there's a problem, I don't know if there's uppercase, lowercase makes a difference, but make him a lowercase. Try that. I don't know if you tried uppercase, lowercase.
Okay, good. Yeah, because on one of the sides it's lowercase, the other side it's uppercase. So
yeah, I don't think it matters that much. I just don't think it matters, but try it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through real quick and show you some of the documents and what you get for this one-time payment. I mean, believe me, it's $297. I want to put it like this, and I hate to drag up stuff or make it sound worse than it really is. But I mean, think about it. If you were to if you're married and you happen to go through a divorce, you hire a divorce attorney one time, and you don't go to a financial attorney or to a internet attorney to get divorced. You go to a divorce attorney, but you hire them one time, and you get that done. Hopefully, you do it one time, right? The internet law is changing. I mean, the internet law changes. As Chip mentioned, there's 28, I believe it is, states that have their own internet, FTC type compliance type laws. So not only do we keep track of the Federal Trade Commission as a government, those laws, and as they change month over month, but we also keep track of all the other states and what's going on there. So you're getting access to the #1 online training that keeps track of it on a month-to-month basis. So it's not like going to that divorce attorney that you're going to need one time. It's like having access to that attorney, that training program that you're going to need, month in, month out, if you plan on growing your business. Now, if you don't plan on growing your business, okay, then you don't need it. But if you actually plan on growing a business online or offline, you need something like FTC Guardian. So right here, you get the Hangouts a month. I'm just going to tell you about what you get. You get the 2-member Hangouts per month, all the documents, the basic documents that you're going to need for your website, and then we're going to go into the supplemental documents, and Chip's going to tell you about that. Right there, Chip, you talk about that?
Well, very quickly, the basic documents are what you typically would expect to see in any e-commerce website. Terms of use, privacy policy, that sort of thing, legal page. But then there are other documents that would be required based on circumstances. So switch back, if you would. There you go. Then we have book author notices and disclaimers, and a lot of these are, some of them are, the Kindle author books we talked about briefly. The ROSCA, you see 4 or 5 down, 3 or 4 of those relate to the federal statute that regulates sign-ups for membership sites. You remember I said earlier there's some serious regulation about how you disclose the fact that you're going to be billed Mr. Customer, Ms. Customer, X dollars a month. That's all covered there. That sort of thing. And I guess the one document in that category that's extremely significant, particularly these days, is toward the bottom. You see at the very bottom the last 2 items, privacy policy retargeting ads and privacy policy update notice. Retargeting is revolutionizing marketing on the internet, and if you're not involved in it now, you will be, or you probably won't be, competitive. And along with the incredible increase in conversions that you'll enjoy, there's some regulation. And most of it is in terms of privacy policy disclosure. So we have a basic privacy policy back in the basic category, but if you're going to get involved in retargeted ads, this is the policy that you would use. It has the disclosures required by the Federal Trade Commission, by Google for AdWords and their other programs, by Facebook for custom audience, and others. And so that's where you would go. And again, you really need to seriously consider adding retargeted ads to your strategy, your marketing strategies this year, if you haven't already done it. And by the way, we've got several hangouts and going to have additional programs later about the actual business aspects of retargeting. So we're going to cover you there. So why don't you flip to the next category quickly, Alan, and I'll point out what's the next slide. That's here you go. A lot of people sort of forget about the intellectual property, or IP, and you remember the 2 copyright issues, the work for hire and the collaboration document. So here you have non-disclosure agreements, which are really valuable tools to have. You have agreements excuse me, with an employee that you might have, or contractor. Agreements with suppliers like graphic designers, all of that sort of thing. So these are just a few of the highlights of the IP documents that you need, and of course we've got the training that explains how to use these documents. So let's flip the slide if we can. This is a category. There are a bunch of customer agreements here. Coaching services. That one at the very top is the sort of the universal one. SaaS account membership agreement. So if you've got a subscription service, a membership, that's the document that's going to be your document of choice for customers. But then there are a bunch of them. Speaker engagement. All sorts of things, and these agreements really help you essentially do 2 things. One, protect your right to get paid for what you're doing, and then second, to also limit your liability. Those are the 2 fundamental aspects of these customer agreements, and there's just about anything, consulting agreement, that sort of thing, coaching services, just about anything you would require is going to be in that category. So go to the last one if you would there, Alan. Channel marketing agreements. I've done a ton of this in my law practice over the years, and I've got a lot of documents here, not only for software, but software as a service. And it starts with basically a referral, just a simple referral agreement. Then you sort of move to affiliate marketing agreements, which a lot of us need. And by the way, the FTC is becoming extremely interested in enforcement of their regulations. Not only do they want to sue the affiliates who are out there creating all sorts of deceptive marketing ads to drive traffic, if you manage these guys, these affiliates, they're going to want you to manage them a little bit, and if you don't, they'll get you. And they've even moved up the chain to the affiliate platform. They're holding those people liable to manage the whole chain. So we've got those agreements, joint venture, JV agreements, all sorts of documents for software people as well as people who are selling products and services online. So we've really got you covered if you're using intermediaries, other people to market for you. And then, where were you there? You've got all of these training and the rules of the road and strategies, training in all of those areas we talked about earlier. And then in the middle where you see the graphic image of the DVDs and the manual, this is not for everyone. This is our upgrade from pro level to what we call enterprise level. But one thing there that's highly unique is, in addition to these additional forms of how you can, get into the training, you get the right to grant for free licenses to our basic package of documents to your customers for a sign-up bonus or however you want to do it. You're not going to be able to just go on, for example, on Facebook and say, here, come here and get your free basic membership to FTC Guardian. They've got to be your members, your tribe, your followers to use as upsell bonus material, that sort of thing. But you can give those away for free. Then you become an affiliate of FTC Guardian, and if we upsell them from basic to pro level, for example, you get a commission. So not only do you win by offering these basic memberships to your tribe for some kind of benefit, right, some kind of incentive, you get rewarded financially if we do the work and convert them. And of course, we're going to invite them to all these webinars and other things to hopefully get them into a pro level membership, which is where most of them need to be. So that's a very unique program. It works, for example, we've got a number of people who do websites for their customers. Well, this is perfect for them. Also, people who market to local businesses. We've got a number of those who are using our enterprise level membership. Again, not for everybody, but if it's something that might be interesting for you, Alan's got a video that explains the whole thing, and it's a really good deal.
Yeah, the local, this area, the enterprise member, you'll see a one-time offer. We sell this on the website for, I believe it's something like $1,500 to $1,600 a year. Usually it's hosting companies, web developers, local marketers, speakers, authors, coaches, people who have tribes, people who have membership sites, tribes, stuff like that, following, and there's a one-time offer for either it's $297 or $397, or I think there's actually an offer for both of them in there. And when you go through the offer and you purchase, you're going to see it's kind of a very anti-sales video from me, telling you straight off the bat that this isn't for everybody, but if this is for you, it's a great opportunity for you to get your customers in, and also for you to make commissions, and a really great way. We sell our basic membership every day for, I believe, $288 a year, and it's something you can gift to your members, to your tribe, as an FTC Guardian member. Because our job, the bottom line is, our job is to make sure people are compliant online and they're doing the right thing out there, so they can kind of save their butt when the FTC comes knocking. So that's our goal, and that's what we're here to do. So let's just break it back down again. It's the strategy videos, $297. Hangouts, you're looking at $2,400 at least, and you're probably well over that. Compliance IP documents, $597. Marketing promotional docs, $597. Conservative real world value, well over $4,500, almost $4,600. Pick it up, today at $297 as a one-time payment. You don't make any more annual payments. That's a question that's coming up several times. Do I have to pay again annually? No, this is a one-time payment. I know it sounds stupid. It sounds ridiculous. I get all that, because we have members paying $348 a month. I believe it's $348. We started at $190. No, not a month. A year. We had people paying. We've got people paying from $147 to, or from legacy members, older members paying from $147 a year to $197 a year to $297 a year to $348 a year, or whatever it is. So This is just kind of a one-time thing. If you want it, now's the time to grab it. Go to ftcguardian.com/Ken, and you'll get that offer. I just want to go through, some people are asking, what is this all about? So I'm going to show you. As part of the agreement, this is actually one of the agreements in our offer. Excuse me just a second.
Okay, well, we there?
So I had to take a little quick drink of water. Is when you go to the website, when you click on that link, you go to the website, this is one of the first things you're going to see. If you own a membership site, you need to make sure you have a click-through agreement, and this is actually a document that is in part of our portfolio of documents. So this is a click-through agreement. You click the button at the top, you enter your email address, and you click I agree, and this is prior to getting to the checkout page. If you own a membership site, this is the correct order to do this according to the Federal Trade Commission. So the next thing you're going to see is our order page right there. It's going to be, say, one-time payment, $297, fuel testimonials on the right side. You fill out the information. It's pretty simple. You click the button that says submit order, and we've got a Facebook community. It's really about us being able, another way for us to communicate with you and tell you when we're going to have hangouts. Not everybody gets their emails all the time. Post all of our hangouts. We kind of have a little bit of a forum going on inside our Facebook community. So the next page you're going to see is something about adding your information for Facebook, because Facebook has, some people have a different Facebook email address than they do regular email address, so we invite you to the Facebook group. So then after you log in, the first thing you're going to see is a welcome video from Chip. And once you watch the welcome video, you're going to go through that, and then you're just going to start at the upper right-hand corner. The welcome video, you're going to go right down to My Accounts, fill out your information, all your particular data that's requested, and just, I mean, honestly, you're just, the best thing to do is start working your way down a few of these, like at least down to supplemental, and because there's videos involved. And then if you want to, after you get through the basic and supplemental, then hop down here and watch some of the other videos, or if you've got a specific thing, type in a search note for, I don't know, retargeting. If you want to do some retargeting, type in search in the key tag retargeting, find out some of that. But the best thing to do is just start, because I have videos inside each of these little areas that help walk you through the process. That is really the best thing to do. Pretty short and sweet. Again, it's $297 one-time pay. And what I'd like to do is see if there's, I'll go to my last slide, I believe. Oh, no, I do. I have a couple more slides because I have the book, right?
The book. Don't forget the book.
Yeah, I had to cough again. Hang on a second.
you guys,
cough because
you're catching poor Alan after some major flu sickness after the cruise.
Yeah,
The poor guy. The day that we left the cruise, when I said goodbye, we were all down the hall from each other, and this poor guy was just deathly ill. And then he got back home, and it seemed to be even worse. And this morning I got up and my throat's a mess. So we're all kind of. And the only person that's been safe, of course, is our insurance agent, Mr. Chip Cooper.
There you go.
So
there you go. I dodged the bullet.
Right. So, and while we do that, Gail said, "This is a fantastic opportunity. Looking forward to protecting my businesses. Thanks, Ken, Chip, and Alan for making this available." I was trying to respond by saying my pleasure, but I never hit the send button. Dominique was asking, will our purchase only grant us the basic level, or do we get access to everything for life?
Pro, you get, as a Pro member, you get access to everything except the Enterprise, and the Enterprise is an upgrade. If you want it, you can get it. It's there as you go through. If you don't have a tribe, you don't need it. But you get access to all the Pro stuff, which means all the documents, all the Hangouts, everything you absolutely need in the Pro membership.
Yeah, thanks. Guys, I'll tell you something. As we were going through this earlier, Ed sent a message saying this is you guys are overselling. It's overkill. And Ed may be right, but I got to tell you, there are a lot of people out there that will also say that's really great, it's really important, and they still will do nothing because they stay in that state. Every one of you should be doing this. I mean, every one of you should be doing this. In my view, there's no exception. It's really that important. Remember, when you're visited by the FBI trying to subpoena your records, you got a lot of religion. And with me, They did it like on Friday night before a holiday weekend. So I could do nothing over the weekend. I mean, nothing but like freak out. When you get any of those kind of letters, it's just horrible. And here's the thing that really bugs me. The people that have created the world economic chaos and driven people into bankruptcy and losing their homes and so on. And by the way, that included me because I had millions of dollars of losses when the economic crisis hit. Those guys are still out there. They're not in jail. They're not penalized. They're still in business. The FTC is going after us and making us examples and seizing us and putting us in all sorts of a world of hurt because they can, because we don't have the resources to fight them and to be the big banks. So $297 is nothing to give us the ability to be safe and not worry about all this madness. And again, you may not have been as lucky. You may be lucky or luckier than me to have not had the visit from the regulators and all that sort of thing. Now, the good news is, I mean, I was okay, but $25,000 is what I paid. And by the way, the attorney wanted it up front. You want to know why? He wanted it up front. I asked him why can't I just have a payment plan? He said, because my job is to make it look like I did nothing. Think about that for a minute. My job is to make it look like I did nothing, that nothing would happen to you. And nothing did happen to me. This is a former prosecutor that was my attorney. So 25 grand versus $300. To me, it's a no-brainer, And is it overkill? Maybe. But honestly, if you don't do it, don't come back to me in a year or two or three when somebody sends you a cease and desist letter or a complaint letter, or you lose the rights to the property that you've worked so hard for. We arranged something for you that's fundamentally it's fantastic. And I'm sitting here with my friend John, and you guys saw John on the cruise. John's like, oh, I got this before we went on the cruise. It's amazing. So I want every one of you to be sure that you do the same thing, and it's really that simple.
Yeah, let me jump in if I may just for a second, Ken. And that is this. I've talked to some members who really, really got into the program and spent a fairly significant amount of time in their first few weeks with the videos and all of this stuff. They were really gung-ho, right? And then there were some others who just didn't have that amount of time, but they wanted to get started. And so one of the great things about the membership is you don't have to jump in up to your eyeballs on day one. It's not required, right? The thing that's important is that you start, right? You begin the process, not that you do it all at once, right? And the best way to start is just to jump in and sign up and then attend your first hangout. And there was one Tuesday. And sort of get into the spirit of things. And you'll learn in bits and pieces along the way. It becomes a process. It's not that difficult and not that time consuming. And after a very short while, a lot of this stuff sort of falls into place. I mean, it really does. It's not that hard. We've made it fairly simple and easy. So you don't have to jump in there. Some people really get gung-ho and go crazy and jump in up to their eyeballs, and that's great. But if that's not for you, you can go at your own pace. And just follow along and do it. And the best way is to just jump right in and go to the first hangout and sort of, follow. Try not to miss one if you can. And then just take it at your own pace and you'll be just fine. It's not required that you go crazy at the very beginning. That's my point, actually.
Okay, let's go to the book. People are asking about the book. Let me do the quick slide for that.
Book.
So
we really need to make good on that promise.
Yeah. So we want everybody to grab a copy of Chip's book. I think it's really technically not his latest book, but it's his latest book on the FTC. The other one's more on privacy, I believe. So this one, if you want to get a copy of Chip's book, we promised everybody on the call tonight that we would get a copy of the book, is just go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/FTC Guardian. Give us a quick like if you don't mind, and send us a comment. We always want to see the comments and what you thought about our presentation, and that's really what it's about. What did you think about our presentation? And if you decide to invest, and we hope you do this, today, is why did you invest in FTC Guardian? You do that, and it's really, really simple. Just send an email to book, BOOK, at ftcguardian.com. And make sure in the subject line you put I did it, because it's just one of those auto return emails, right? You send that and it's going to send you a link to the book, and that's really all there is to it. So you just got to do that. Again, here are some of the testimonials we've had. These are, just what people are saying. You can read these yourself. I hate to really go through all of them because some of them are just, so long and stuff like that. But you can see there, we love that and trusted them. As someone who's starting out, this is, stuff is pretty terrifying, and, who knows, understands that. So we got really good stuff, and our job is really just to help you stay protected, keeping your legal and your marketing together, and that's our goal. So, pro membership, one-time pay for Ken's group. After that tongue tying and arm twisting on the cruise, threatening to throw us overboard. Yeah, Ken may be little, but he's a strong little guy. So
little stuff.
So one-time payment, $297. FTCGuardian.com/Ken. We've already had a lot of people jump in on this, and we're glad that you did, and we're looking forward to working with you guys in the future. So that's it. If there are any other questions, or Ken, if you have anything.
Yeah, do me a favor, just pop back real quick for Jason, because he wants to know that he didn't get the email address for the book. And Dominique has a question too. So you might want to just address. I'm not sure if you addressed that directly with her or not yet. Understanding the FTC, the independent contract agreement.
So is there a legal related question that I need to answer?
Yeah, let me read it to you then.
Okay.
And Alan, just skip back one slide to the address for the book, or just pop it in the chat for Jason.
I'll pop it in for Jason.
Awesome, perfect. Okay, so this is Dominique's question. I'm just trying to understand. Sorry, guys. So, for example, when an independent contractor agreement is created, is it regulated across the United States by the FTC? If so, when is the need to have a lawyer in your own state draft up a custom agreement for your particular business, or is that money unnecessarily spent?
That money is probably unnecessarily spent because we're talking here not about the FTC, which is dealing with essentially representations that you make to consumers, either in your privacy policy or in your ad claims. Lose 10 pounds your first month, something like that. The Copyright Act deals with the ownership of the stuff you create in writing, like computer code or books or manuals or videos, that sort of thing. And so one of the things that's really critical is that if you hire a contractor, someone not an employee, which is of course what you do in almost all circumstances, you want to make sure that whatever the work product of that contractor is for you, that you're paying for, right? You want to own the copyrights and all other intellectual property to it. The problem is that the Copyright Act is set up so that it defaults in favor of the contractor unless you have these three requirements. A very simple agreement that says that the work product is work made for hire and that it's signed by the contractor and it's in writing, right? Those three things. And so it can be a one-page document. It doesn't have to be a 20 or 30 pager. You just need to have those three things: written agreement signed by the contractor, stipulating some magic words, work made for hire. Then you're going to own what you're paying for, which is what you probably think is the right result anyway. But in order to get that result, you actually have to know this and follow through. And a lot of our documents have that, those clauses in them. So it's not an FTC thing; it's an intellectual property. So one of the big points is our number one, I guess, interest is to make sure you stay out of trouble with the FTC. That's what most of we were talking about tonight. However, it's not just the FTC. It's making sure that you own your intellectual property, that you understand what what it is and how to protect it and how to use it. So there's a strong intellectual property protection element in what we offer. It's not just FTC. So that would be work for hire or work made for hire agreement, and we've got that in our documents.
That's worth a lot. I know enough people that have been at risk because they haven't had the documentation in place, and this is huge. There was another question too, related to the enterprise. Let me see. Ken Rick's asking, I'm listening to the enterprise upsell. Are the 9 comprehensive strategy DVDs different content relative to the Be Legal guide?
I've already answered him.
Oh,
He's
okay.
good.
Awesome. Okay, great. And then Jesse's asking about updates. I can answer this for you guys. Jesse, these guys are going to update you for the rest of your life. So
We're an update machine.
yeah, they are. They are. I mean, we're talking about the content for this coming Tuesday's webinar too. So and that's going to be good. And they're doing it as a hangout and recording it because, for example, Tuesday I'm in an event. I won't be able to be there live, but I'll have it and I'll have access to it. So that's super good. Glad you asked that. And Jesse's asking a really good question. How can you afford to do this for a one-off? Guys, look at this. They still have a business independent of webinars that they do with people like me. So they got people on continuity. So that's how it's done. I mean, and Chip still has a business, so it's great. Yeah, Carol, I'll work on that for you. Dominique saying thank you. Anything else? Am I missing anything, guys? Or are we good? Any other questions we need to be?
Well, if there are no other questions, all I would say is, guys, jump in right now and then be sure to attend the first hangout next Tuesday and bring a question because it's not just all me lecturing. It's a mini lecture. We respect your time and we don't, burn up a couple of hours, twice a month. But bring a couple of questions that you have and fire away because that's what it's all about. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to have you a member and work with you and help you stay compliant.
Awesome. Guys, thank you all. Everyone's excited here. I'm seeing everyone's jumping in now. Jesse's excited. Kenrick's excited. Kenrick just went up to Enterprise. Congratulations. Carol tried so hard to get in. She's in. Looks like Dominique is joining us. And of course, I can't see all your names. I'm just seeing from your chats. So I'm really excited for that.
Terrific. We look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. Be sure to join.
Dominique, you're good, so don't worry about that. That's fine. Get in, guys. This is great. And I want to welcome you, and I want to thank you for taking charge of you, because honestly, this is so important. So I want every dollar that you make as you move forward to be there. Let's see, what times are the hangouts? They're going to email you, unless you guys want to tell them the hangout times now for Tuesday.
8 o'clock on a Tuesday normally.
Yeah. What time? I'm sorry.
8 p.m. on a Tuesday normally.
Okay, that's gonna be 8 p. They're East Coast USA guys, so that's 8 p.m. USA Eastern time.
Right.
Okay, and Jesse, you'll become an affiliate once you get on board. They'll get you the affiliate stuff. They get a great affiliate program. And yes, you can use the same link, Dominique. Absolutely. Okay, Gail's in. Awesome. Dominique keeps saying yay. So, okay. Well, guys, thank you so much. You guys rock. This has been a very, very popular event. Some of you guys, it looks like, may not be able to get in. So I'm really glad that you guys made it and stuck around. And you guys, Alan, thank you for doing this, even though you were horribly sick all week. I really appreciate your and this is no kidding. I mean, this is Alan was terribly sick. So thank you both, Alan and Chip, for being with us this week. I really appreciate that. Dominique,
there's only one person in the world I'd do this for.
and who's that?
It had to be you, right?
Well, thanks. Dominique is saying happy dance. So well now you can go back to bed and take care of Di. And Chip, thank you again so much. You guys rock, and I'm really looking forward. And John's waving at you guys, by the way.
Okay, well, thank you, Ken, and thanks, guys.
All right, take care. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Take care.
Bye.
And for those of you in Asia, good afternoon. Oh, good morning. Bye, everybody. Take care.